political parties play an important role in policy making within the EU. They formulate and advocate for specific policy positions which can shape the direction and priorities of EU policies. The EU Parliament, as an elected body, can be a strong advocate for progressive policies. The next elections in June 2024 will influence the composition of the Parliament and affect the climate policies and other important issues. What are the key challenges that the EU is expected to face in the coming years regarding circularity and sustainable use of resources, considering the upcoming European elections and the start of a new political cycle?
Panayota, very often you hear in, I guess I hear in my discussions with that's the suggestion, in your case as well, that European elections feel so distant. What happens in Brussels feels so distant compared to national politics or the national situation, and that might be a demotivating factor for people to vote. But really, what happens in Brussels can have a direct or indirect influence in your life. And just to give the practical example, as I mentioned earlier, the negotiation now in the Parliament and the Council of the Raw Material Act, the first law on raw materials, that's happening through the committees in the Parliament and through, elected representatives in the Parliament. So certainly your vote has an impact. So people need to vote and they need to look into the program of different parties in order to make the decision. I hope that in most cases, environmental sustainability, together with this whole new geopolitical dimension, will be high on the agenda of candidates. Now, what do I see as key challenges, and that maybe give some inspiration to people what they could look for in different programs is, first of all, one of the key challenges is how do you actually combine this environmental sustainability question you mentioned earlier with the question of securing raw materials for the future and sustaining our living standards in Europe. I think this is really the key question, because following the war in Ukraine, we have to go faster when it comes to renewable energy installations in Europe. We have to, and that of course has climate benefits. Of course, you have more renewable energy, that you decrease your emissions, but that has a direct or indirect impact on natural environments, because if you go faster, there could be some risks in some cases of not having the proper process in place or not assessing all of the different impacts. So this is kind of a very difficult equation for researchers and for politicians. And I think this is something that at least we should reflect upon, we should discuss, we should be open about. And that also refers to the candidates as well. So I think this is a key question that we need to be addressed in the next political cycle. How do we actually accelerate the pace of growth of renewables without compromising our environmental standards in Europe and without not having a major impact on natural resource and environment? I think that's the first key challenge. The second is, of course, linked to the raw material demands that I said in the future. What are we doing on the front of mining? Can we actually educate people about the need to develop some mining under high environmental and social standards in Europe? Can we educate people? Can we be open to the citizens about that this might be needed in the future and there will be impacts? I think that's one of the key challenges, because we need the materials now. We don't need them like in 10 or 20 years, for when the new generation will be voting. I mean, we need the materials basically now in the coming years. And this is again a very difficult equilibrium to solve. And finally, the final point links to the raw material. One of the key challenges will be to convince our partners around the world, both in developing and developed countries, about that that Europe offers opportunities. Certainly, that is still a region that has high environmental standards, high social standards, but still can offer opportunities for partnerships, and that we are a reliable partner. I mean, we have achieved this, of course, in the past, but now the raw material challenge brings a whole new discussion into place, because there are other players, other economies that are also looking for these materials, that they also face the same scarcity that we do. So, and in that sense, maybe it will also make sense to form partnerships with other regions and economies that they face the same concerns, rather than going into a race where the European Union might be in a disadvantaged position because we are not as rich in resources as in other countries. So these are three of the multitude of challenges that I think that the next political cycle and the next elected members of the parliament will need to face.